Welcome to IndyCar's next collective failure. They let Alex Palou win on a short oval. Welcome back to Motorsport 101.
You gave away the game, Dre. We gotta tell them how they got there.
And speaking of talented Spanish motor racing athletes locked into contract disputes that actually went to court.
And still going. Yes, welcome to episode 602 of Motorsport 101. I'm your friendly neighborhood host, Dre Harrison. Glad you could join us. And in the second half of this doubleheader recording, we're going to be talking IndyCar in Iowa. A doubleheader weekend, a couple of 275-mile races for your driving pleasure. And, well, in an alternate universe, Josef Newgarden probably wins both of these. He got neither in the end, and how we got there was a bit of a ruckus. A lot of strategy calls, a lot of, shall we say, roughly timed cautions that had a disruption on the run-in, a lot of standard IndyCar oval drama, and in the end, it was a split of wins for Pato O'Ward and Alex Palou to take both races in Iowa. We've now doubled our win count of new winners this season in the last 2 weeks. Thanks, Scott. And thanks, Pato. The usual suspects are now starting to filter in. It took us half the season to get here, but I'm glad they're here now. They've arrived. Just like my co-hosts. First up, Mr. Cameron Buckley. Hello, sir.
You know, personally, I am smoking the pack of this entire series. This should be illegal. This amount of winning should not be allowed. And yet it is.
You've put 2 full 12-packs in your mouth. That's what you've gone and done here at the same time. You're lighting them up with a gas stove.
With a fucking M2 flamethrower.
Just stick the flamethrower on.
Smells like victory.
Nobody likes roasted nuts. Isn't that right, RJ O'Connell?
All hands to the deck.
We're not helping matters.
The Josef Newgarden contingent is starving while watching a nut. They are dying of thirst while watching other men drown. I am other men.
This is not entirely true. I'm on that Alex Palou. I was a day one Alex Palou investor. Let's not forget, this has been confirmed. I just wish my 3 favorite drivers were all in a close title fight together, and it's not that. It's not even that at all.
Very, very far from that.
I mean this in the nicest way possible, RJ. That's just you being a greedy bitch at this point. I was like, oh no, let me get off my main wagon and jump on my secondary wagon of Alex Palou fandom. Oh, that brother's starving.
Oh, my tertiary wagon of Pato O'Ward guy's first win of the season. Finally, Aaron McLaren, you're starting to perform like a big boy team.
You support 3 of the 5 best drivers in this series at the same time. Do you know how spoilt you are over there? This is why I do hold nothing back in my Newgarden criticism, because you have your fingers in more pies than the movie American Pie.
Cam, how could it possibly be worse?
Well, because the biggest Pato O'Ward fan I know on the internet DM'd me after the second race and went, "Does nothing, wins. How does he do it? What rabbit's foot does he have?" I then replied with the Stephen A. Smith that he usually does when the Cowboys lose, which is the national pastime here in the United States. And he told me to die. And honestly, real.
Oh, good. Good to know. Of the Kieran that also goes, you could be a Connor Daly fan, RJ. You could have my pain.
Connor Daly was had a pretty decent season, all things considered.
You wouldn't be able to tell from this weekend, I promise you.
On pace, you could. Unfortunately, anything would be better than the other Junko Solinger car. anything.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. That's for damn sure. Right, let's tell the places you can find us real quick before we get into both races in Iowa. Places you can find us are on youtube.com/motorsport101, facebook.com, /line. We're on Twitter at motorsport_101, Instagram at motorsport101pod, and on TikTok for video highlights at M101_podcast. Our website is motorsport101.com, and if you have to follow us personally on Blue Sky, you can at Dre Harrison, CBuckley917, and RJ O'Connell at bluesky.com. And if you really, really like us, you can back us financially on Patreon, patreon.com/motorsport101. $5 gets you early access to all of our content. You can upgrade to the $10 tier to listen to these episodes live as they're being recorded, as Kira, Vic, and Jason are doing so right now. Thank you very much for listening in. And don't forget, if you are a brand new member or someone who wants to back us for an entire year up front, you can with a 30% discount. Smoothest I've ever done that, by the way. Whew, that was slick. Right after this, we'll be talking about IndyCar's doubleheader at Iowa.
I mean, damn. I don't know if it's as good as that 1992 Indy 500 that we watched, but this was still interesting. Stop us if you've heard this before. Josef Newgarden led 242 out of 275 laps in the first race of the Iowa Speedway IndyCar doubleheader. 2,000 career laps led in Iowa, by the way. But it was the final round of green flag pit stops that derailed his chances at a first win of the season. He comes into pit first, Pato O'Ward comes in a lap later, and all of a sudden the overcut works, leading to O'Ward getting the Mexican driver back out in front. Newgarden tried hard late on to take the lead back, but O'Ward would hold on for his first win of 2025, the 8th of his career ahead of Newgarden, Will Power, Scott McLaughlin, who recovered from a crash in qualifying with hours to spare in between qualifying and the first race, finished fourth on what was the only good day of Penske's 2025 IndyCar season thus far.
I mean, Penske did just about everything right in that race itself, and somehow still didn't win, with cars second, third, and fourth. Ugh. I mean, the question here says, what do you make of the late sweep from Pato? I say, look, it's the unfortunate nature of oval races. The timing of cautions can really shake things up inadvertently. I would have had no problem conceding on this one that Josef Newgarden should have won this race. He was standard Josef Newgarden in Iowa Fair. He's won here 6 times prior already. He's now led over 2,100 laps in Iowa, which is more than any other driver has done on any other track on the IndyCar calendar. Iowa is Newgarden's true magnum opus circuit. And if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't think Newgarden was 16th in points this year, the way he was driving. He wrung the neck of that thing. He was brilliant through traffic. He made the key passes when he needed to. That was the Newgarden we've come to expect over the years that has as many wins in this series as Rick Mears does. He was outstanding in race 1. He deserved the win, and unfortunately was beaten on a game of strategy. And, well, I think a little bit of that is also the nature of Iowa as a track. Dirty air is a nasty mother truck around this place. It's once you get past that 5 or 6 lap prime period of fresh tires and taking heart and being able to take the higher lines with the extra grip that you've got. Once you settled into that rhythm, it's really hard to be able to pass people, and it showed.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's just like, this was better than last year's Iowa races, where there was just like not shit happening. Most of it, yes, is concentrated in starts and restarts and pit cycles. Of course, it was better than last year. Just enough to where...
The bar is somewhere underneath Texas Motor Speedway for the NASCAR contingent.
And, of course...
It's been very rough here since the half repave, as we would call it, because this place just doesn't rubber in.
And the trouble is now, unlike in recent years when Hy-Vee Supermarkets was basically doing all the lifting to get people in the gates, turning it into a premium concert event along with a motor race, etc. Their involvement's now gone. Iowa Speedway's official social media accounts have basically just not acknowledged that this has happened because they sneakily decided to start up like a sub account of just like, here is all the information about IndyCar in Iowa that's not on the main Iowa Speedway accounts.
Why?
I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
Probably it's a carryover from like the Javier or what, but man, you could tell there's just nobody wanting to turn up in the middle of a hot summer July afternoon with no shade, with no promotion, and a tornado in the area that fucked everything up on Friday to go to this race.
Yeah,
yes,
we could see a tornado from the grounds of the Speedway.
It was 1.5 miles away. They had to evacuate the building late on Friday for safety reasons. Crazy on that one. But I've seen some established journalists like Krista Hardy and Joey Barnes in particular was asking people, well, why didn't you go, basically, which, is a bit of a confrontational way of asking the question. And the most common response I saw on Twitter essentially boiled down to very poor local promotion. A lot of people just straight up did not know there was an IndyCar doubleheader that weekend. There was no radio messages, no billboards, no advertisements in any of the local newspapers or anything like that. If you were an Iowa resident, you probably just didn't know any better that there was an IndyCar race this weekend, and you were probably looking for Caitlin Clark highlights on YouTube, most likely, instead.
But she doesn't even play in Iowa anymore.
She's not playing at all right now. She's hurt.
Oh.
Look, if a 10 out of 10 IndyCar race happens and no one's around to watch it, did it really happen? Does that same thing apply to a 4 out of 10 IndyCar race?
And it doesn't help, but we've had this conversation before about IndyCar. This was when it was Texas, towards the end of its run on the IndyCar calendar, we were having this conversation about how shit local promotion was really harming the race. And the person that was most active trying to get people through the door was Pato O'Ward, who was bundling in tickets with merchandise sales. Like, don't get me wrong, great idea on Pato's end, but it did also wreak a little bit of a cry for help when you're having to buy tickets in bulk and then flip them off as part of buying sombreros.
Your own driver is subsidizing your lack of promotion.
Yeah,
if it were up to me,
Iowa don't have that. So there was just there was a deafening silence for much of this weekend. There was a shocking, wow, those grandstands are fucking empty. Both of these races.
If it were me, I'm making 2 changes right off the rip. I'm moving the race back to nighttime. I understand that maybe Fox wants this afternoon television window, but it's the middle of July, and Iowa Speedway's grandstands, once they're there, have no canopies, no awning, no protection for the state. I know that's common for some oval tracks, but like you could hold this at night. You used to hold this at night, and it was baller.
I'll tell you from my own experience. When the NASCAR race in New Hampshire Motor Speedway moved to the summer-only event, there is no protection. I do not feel like sitting in the New Hampshire summer heat of it's either raining, 95 degrees, or both at the same time with no protection, as opposed to the September race, which they took the hint. That race is back in September now. If it's not a pleasant fan experience, and you don't promote it, and it's in the middle of nowhere, it's like they're concocting a stew of all the reasons why not to go to this race. And that's before you get to anything about the on-track product, which wasn't very scintillating either.
6,000 ticket sales for Sunday is shambolic. That is
it's a new low for IndyCar.
It's a catastrophic failure on every level. There's no sugarcoating that. There is no positive spin you can put on that. That is an unmitigated disaster. That is all of a sudden your place on the calendar doesn't look very secure kind of numbers. Like, that is... It's conversations we shouldn't be having about IndyCar in 2025. It's that simple. And I don't want to start like a broken record, because we've talked about IndyCar's promotional problems on this podcast so many times before. But this, like... And don't get me wrong, I don't think this is entirely IndyCar's fault. Iowa losing Hy-Vee was huge. Like,
oh, absolutely.
There's no getting it. Hy-Vee pumped a lot of money into this track, into the facility. Making it a music concert is the number one cheat code is to getting people through the door in motorsport in 2025, because that's what Formula One and MotoGP have been doing out the arse for the last 2 or 3 years. When Silverstone was struggling with its MotoGP sales, they were inviting musicians down to make it a concert in the evenings, inviting your favorite all-star bands from 2004, Chase and Status and Radiohead, brought them down. The Singapore Grand Prix, literally today, was advertising Lewis Capaldi doing a concert at the Singapore Grand Prix in October. Makes sense. Get people to come to the music and stay for the Grand Prix. Whatever works. But losing Hy-Vee as a facility which had all the items you could ever need for a race weekend if you were camping there, all the stuff to make the race experience a little bit more pleasant, musical concerts. The fact that if you were an IndyCar fan, you were probably just getting a whole lot more for your buck by going to Iowa then and actually feeling like you had a promoter that gave a shit. The moment they wanted to become a NASCAR event, IndyCar got kicked to the curb. Not for the first time if we've heard that about an IndyCar race on its calendar in recent years. And that just sucks for everybody involved. And there's one thing I wanted to talk to you about this, and I'm pointing down in RJ's corner about this specifically, because this is going to sound crazy. This felt like the weekend where shit got a little bit too much of the Newgarden hate wagon. It really did. Like, it how did you feel coming during this weekend, RJ? Because we had a couple of chats about it across the weekend, and it wasn't ideal.
I mentioned yesterday that I don't really know what's going on with Josef. Maybe when he passed out after the second race here 3 years ago, it's done something to his mental state or emotionally, physically, what have you. I have no real concrete evidence, but nobody has a real concrete evidence that Jimmy Johnson was ever the same driver after he had that big hit in Pocono 2017. I'm just spitballing out there. It could be that. It could be some sort of resentment that he harbors from the way that people reacted to him getting thrown over the bus for push to pass gate, taking all the heat for that, compared to his co-drivers who got busted, compared to the team who should have taken more responsibility. And I gotta say, it does not help. It really does not help when every Tom, Dick, and Jenna out there is just fanning the flame. Every opportunity that they get to basically needle this guy about why he doesn't want to talk to the media when they basically ran a year-long hate watch tour for him, a year-long character assassination tour after Push to Pass Gate. You wonder why he might harbor some resentment, just like people might wonder why Tony Stewart always hated the media for about a decade at his peak in NASCAR. Plus, I don't know what's going on, man. But I can't imagine all the external forces are helping.
What I will say is, me personally, Iowa was the sprinklings on top of the muffin. The whipped cream and the icing on the muffin really was at Mid-Ohio last week, when Fox, in a very bizarre sort of narrative sweep, and everybody at Fox was involved in this, from James Hinchcliffe, who normally is better than this, if I'm being quite honest, to Buxton and Townsend Bell, and even Fox, who had Cletus there representing their NFL coverage.
We talked about this.
Yeah,
we were busting his
best.
balls for not talking to the media whenever shit goes wrong after a qualifying session.
You organised the part of the live broadcast where he said, "Hey, Cletus, do a Newgarden impression," and he walks off the set. The guy that you've pigeonholed in to be your number one advertiser of the series, you're trying to alienate live on the broadcast. That's not clever. That's just bad optics.
That, I think, is the surprising and concerning element of this, because fans are going to needle drivers all damn day. It's the fact that the call is coming from within the house, that the official media partner of the series and the other drivers are just poking the bear, every chance they get.
Mid-Ohio was grim. The only journalist that was being really reasonable about it was Nathan Brown, who tried to both sides this and was actually reasonable in his assessment when talking about this, saying, look, Newgarden crashing and then having a bad day and then not wanting to talk to the media is understandable. He's had a bad day. He's had a bad crash. It happens. That I can understand, and I fully agreed with that. When he didn't have a bad day and he wasn't talking to the media, okay, the media has a point.
Something's up.
To a degree, right? It's a delicate relationship. Mm-hmm. I understand that. You need a bit of balance on both sides of the aisle for people to get along. I get it. Look, I am a member of said media. It's a hard one to shake because sometimes you're going to be going in and asking a question that could upset somebody. I get it. You've got to be delicate with these things. It's not easy to juggle that balance. When Pato O'Ward, after winning race 1, is talking about sending Newgarden some Kit Kats because he was salty and, quote, not the same Newgarden he's dealt with before, something has gone very wrong here. And look, I said it. I wrote a 2,000-word article in my racing review about Iowa on the website, and I dedicated the whole first half of it to Newgarden. And I said, Pato O'Ward has what I like to call people's champion privilege, where he can make shitty comments and get away with it because he's Pato and he has a very screaming, passionate fan base that will just defend him no matter what. That was below the belt.
The shit after the 500 when he talked about Ericsson being a coward, when he made a business decision at last year's 500, which cost him a 500. Don't want to hear any of that shit coming from him.
I need to be real here for a second. Pato O'Ward drew a lot of sympathy for the same sort of shit we've given other McLaren drivers for allegedly bottling big races. Just saying. Just saying.
But we understand that Pato does not drive for a team that is as good as Penske. We understand that Pato has kept the same energy about Josef Newgarden since P2P Gate broke. And I love me some Pato O'Ward. I think it's all fair and all that stuff. The bigger point is that not necessarily.
He's always going to have a pass in the court of public opinion because he's Pato O'Ward.
And because in their eyes, he's not a cheater in their eyes.
And that's the thing. Pato O'Ward has been below the belt with his comments about other people in IndyCar and the series itself for a good couple of years now. It's a pattern of behavior with Pato that I think it's alarming that more people haven't picked up on it. I feel like we're the first people that's actually talked about this in a large medium where Pato continually will take the low road in every media clinch he's in when something happens that he doesn't like. And this was for some reason, as an accumulation of Mid-Ohio, how that race played out, the broadcast, and then Pato winning a narrow one against Newgarden in Iowa, fair and square, and then Pato comes out with those comments. For me, it felt like this is too much. This is getting ridiculous now. I openly admit I've chilled on some of my Newgarden support over the years because I think sometimes he has been out of character. But the punishments from the receipts from certain people in the media, from drivers, from fans, the punishment does not fit the crime, quite frankly. And it's getting toxic to the point of I'm not enjoying this anymore. I like a bit of needle in my sports. Villains and heroes.
What is sports fandom built, Andre?
Hatred. Always.
Clean, old-fashioned hate.
Clean, old-fashioned hate is the glue that holds the internet together, and that goes for sports, politics, life, you name it. Right? I like a bit of needle in my sport as much as the next guy, but it's going way over the top for Newgarden. The biggest crime you could ever say about Josef in this series was that he took on too much of the brunt from the Penske push-to-pass scandal, something that Tim Cindric should have fallen on that grenade for and not him.
Oh, he did.
Eventually he did. Eventually he did. It just took him a little while.
A year and change.
And another cheating scandal.
And a second scandal hitting the Penske Tower. It doesn't compute. It doesn't fit. It's like we've now made Josef Newgarden our piñata for the series, to borrow a Mexican pun for a second there. It just feels over the top at this point, to the point where it's like, I used the wrestling term in my article, go away heat. It's we can't even be bothered anymore. Just go away because we don't like you anymore. And I'm like, there are far more dislikable dudes in this series than Josef Newgarden, and it's not even close.
Santino Ferrucci is literally right there.
Oh, but the problem is that, like, the general IndyCar problem, they fuck with that guy. They love that guy. They think he's cool. They think he's rebellious. They think he's just what IndyCar needs, unlike that fake, duplicitous, evil guy, the company sellout, the company kiss-ass driver for Penske.
What, like the duplicitous, like the duplicitous reasoning as to why? Oh, he had some trouble over in Europe, and now he's in IndyCar.
Dog, the mental gymnastics is crazy.
Well, this is what happens when you let an agent be a broadcaster at the same time. TNT Sports and Fox are both guilty of that. And we're just, as an audience and community, largely at peace with that. So much so his own son will send me tweets on Twitter laughing at me for pointing this out to others. So, you know...
That's GR Cup North America legend Jackson Bell, by the way.
So, Jackson, if you're listening, hi, thanks for the feedback. Pass this on to your dad. Please step down from his job if he's going to be managing another driver in the series. Thanks. Yours, Dre Harrison. Thanks for listening. But no, it's...
I'm just burnt out with it, man. Like, I've given up the fight a long time ago. I can only speak for my bitterness as Newgarden's strongest soldier. Not his strongest soldier, by the way. There are probably like at least 100 other people with more social media clout than me that are much stronger soldiers. And also, I'm not covering IndyCar full time anymore, so it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
This follow him to hell. You just wish he'd stop going there.
Exactly. Thank you, Cam. Thank you for taking the words out of my mouth.
Yeah. And like
it would take an absolutely like heinous turn of events in his personal life off track for me to like throw in the towel. Hey, I sure as hell hope that does not happen. To be certain.
And let's be serious for a minute here. As a person, Josef Newgarden has done nothing problematic outside the realm of IndyCar for people to turn on him. This is all series politics and semantics we're talking about here. By all accounts, Josef Newgarden has come across like a very good human being, and we all know his good for the series has massively outweighed the bad.
Yeah.
We've all been fans long enough to know that man has busted his arse trying to get this series over. Yeah. Massively. So, like, we're not saying any of this to ignore all the good that Josef has done. This is the most defending we've done of the man in years, quite frankly, on this podcast, because it just feels the call from inside the house is getting very strong, very bitchy. It's all a little bit mean girls for my liking. I wish more people who actually know what's going on would raise their head above the parapet and have the balls to put their name on it and say something. Because I've said before, Bus Bros suddenly came to an end and no one said officially the real reasons as to why that happened. And people have implied, like James Hinchcliffe, that they know what's happened and they've not said anything.
Well, everything I've heard is that Newgarden and McLaughlin had a falling out, and that's why they stopped doing that. Why they have a falling out? I have no clue.
Why can't anybody just say that? That's your big secret. Like, people fall out all the time.
I didn't even think that was a big secret. I thought that was just like the worst kept secret in the garage, or at least like top 5.
No one has said that publicly on the record, though. That's what I find weird about all of this. Like, it's like there's 2 pieces of this puzzle that are missing. People know where those pieces are, but nobody wants to say why. It's stupid. These are grown-ass men in their 30s.
Yeah.
They don't need defending like this. Speak, boy. Let 1,000 flowers bloom. God.
I'm guessing that's what Fox wishes they do. I guess that's what the media wishes he do, is he speak so that you can give your side of the story. I get that side of perspective. I heard Josef on the episode after Mid-Ohio seemed completely checked out on trying to hype up his race versus the Formula One Montreal Grand Prix. I get all that. I can imagine that, again, all these external forces that are being pushed down on him, like the pressure coming down on Titan, are not helping.
The calls are coming from inside the house, and I don't think it's in anybody's best interest. Let's put it to you that way.
Should we talk about race 2 for a second? Because that's
Please
another
do.
race where Josef Newgarden didn't win, because not because of pit stops, but because of 2 tricky cautions, both involving blowouts for Andretti Global failures.
Yes, Andretti Global failures could really sum up this team this year outside of the occasional Kyle Kirkwood victory. What the hell was that from Andretti this weekend?
For the full context, across their team, 4 crashes over the weekend, and all 3 of their drivers' cars, Kyle Kirkwood, Colton Herta, and Marcus Ericsson, all had the same tyre fail over the course of the race, all leading to crashes. Race 2 in particular was the bad one.
Yeah. Ericsson has a blowout. Herta has a blowout. Cue up the catchphrase. And it all leads to Alex Palou being able to put a lap in front of his rivals and hold off Scott Dixon to win race 2, and not just put one hand on the title. I mean, one hand and 3 fingers are on that Astor Cup right now. He can put a 4th, maybe even a 5th by the time we get through Laguna Seca.
It's not mathematically impossible for him to win the title next week.
Yeah, he can't win it in Toronto this weekend, but if results go his way, it could be done at Laguna Seca 3 rounds early. We went nuts We went
Trey,
nuts.
You say
20.
That.
Yeah,
it's not
we
like
went
he's
nuts in
particularly
2020.
good at Laguna. Oh God, he has an average finish of 1.75.
It was the one race he won in the year where he was in the contract dispute, where we were thinking, right. No matter what happens, Palou is getting fired like the day after. And then it turned out to be the win that saved that relationship entirely.
Because they realized, I can't let go of the guy who just won this race by 30 seconds.
While frozen out of the setup circle at Ganassi.
It was a beat 'em down bonanza brought to you by Donkey Kong that year. And 2023 we went nuts when he won the title with 1 race early, and that was the first early title win since the late Dan Weldon. He could win this 3 rounds early potentially this year. 3.
I just beat my own speedrun record again.
New Game Plus to an Astor Cup title, speed run on Games Done Quick. It's ridiculous what we're talking about here. This is a collective failure from IndyCar as a series to let Alex Palou win a short oval for the first time in his career. And look, for the people of the internet, let me make one thing abundantly clear here. This wasn't a total fluke win for Palou. He had a top 3 car no matter which way you slice that second race. He was not slow. Yes, the timing of the caution helped because Palou was able to run longer than you. That's a strategic win. Being able to run longer than your rivals.
Was Honda. Chevy got on the board. We didn't even mention it. Chevy on the board for the first time in race 1. But even then, the fuel mileage for the Honda was really good in the first race.
Something, Chris Paul, 42-point lead.
Yeah, pretty much. That fuel mileage advantage, it threw up that alley-oop for Palou to dunk home.
Yeah, Chevrolet, obviously with Palou getting the first win, Chevrolet had 7 out of the top 8 in race 1. Palou was the only outlier in race 1. In race 2, Honda swept the podium as an act of revenge, essentially, with effectively a Chip Ganassi lockout because Marcus Armstrong was third.
That was Frieza going, impressive. I felt that. That was,
actually hurts. It hurts.
Those 2 oval wins hit his hand like the last 2 Infinity Stones.
Yeah, it was just like I said. This was not a fluke. I need to make this point. Like, being able to run long opens the door for a caution that could potentially go in your favor, right? And that's what happened with Palou here. Yes, the timing was lucky, but you make your own luck, as you often say in this series.
Andre, I'd like to think after that first race, I like to think that they timed out when they think the Andretti tire was going to fail. That's how predictable it was that Andretti's shit was going to hit the fan.
His 7th win of the season. He still has a chance to match or even surpass AJ Foyt's record of 10.
You know, he was just, maybe in Mid-Ohio, he was just trying to protect AJ's record. Maybe he's given himself something to chase next year.
Let's re-rack this for a second. That's 7 wins in a spec chassis formula. Sebastian Bourdais had 8 in 14 races in 2007 with spec chassis and engines. He has a long runway to match or surpass that.
Below 7 out of 12 this season with 2 second places. He's not finished a race over the line worse than 8th, and there's only 1 8th at Gateway. He was 5th in race 1 here. The 25th in Detroit is an outlier. He was taken out by David Malukas when he was running 5th in that race at the time. If that race plays out, all things being equal, it's probably a Palou podium at worst. Probably second. I think Kirkwood still probably wins that race. He was excellent that day in Detroit. But it's probably another podium. This is the stupidity of how good Alex Palou has been. He is inevitable. He now has a 129-point lead with only 245 in difference points left on the table. He's
doing this with Scott Dixon as his teammate.
And Dixon
He's doing this in a breakout year for Kyle Kirkwood. He has completely...
Dixon's 173 points back.
He has completely overwritten any accolade for any other driver we could hand out. It's ridiculous.
If he can win 3 out of the last 5, he ties AJ Foyt. 4 out of 5 to beat it. It's doable. Toronto, he's gone well at before. He's dominant at Laguna Seca.
What did he do here 2 years ago?
He finished second with a broken wing. And look, people will say, oh, he should have been meatballed that whole time. It was a disgrace that they let him. Probably, but he still drove to second with a broken car. That's still hard.
He's still out fuel saved everyone behind him with a no front wing.
Paul Tracy couldn't have done that. He tried.
We've got Laguna Seca, Portland, another track he's incredibly strong at. Milwaukee and Nashville are going to be crapshoots at short ovals. We'll have to wait and see.
But that's the thing. He won on a short oval. And we knew even before this, he was always better than we gave him credit for at this discipline.
Well, here's the thing. It's like if Newgarden, who again drove his nuts off in race 2 and got nothing for it, and we'll expand on him in a moment. If his oval rating was like a 98 this weekend, Palou's was like a measly 94.
Oh no, you're still got one of the top. you're still one of the top 3 in short ovals in that IndyCar game that's never coming out.
No, it's never coming out, and I've lost hope on that front many years ago. But even beyond that, like the second Ganassi improved their short oval cars, Palou's still at the head of that queue by a mile. He still beats Dixon straight up both races, and he was a pole sitter
for race 2. He was a pole sitter in race 2. This wasn't a fluke.
The only thing where he probably could have used some work on Sunday was working the traffic, because Newgarden was just perfect through traffic.
Oh, yeah.
That is a hell of a problem to have if you're not lapping people quickly enough while leading.
Newgarden had to come back through the field in race 2 twice because he got hosed on the timing of... Like, the Chevrolet fuel mileage low-key did Newgarden in because... Well, you know, he had to come back from the midfield twice in that race. And when he was making time on the leaders, he was butchering them. Like half a second a lap on a 19-second lap. Like, this is how crazy Newgarden was at times during this race. And again, he got hosed on that final caution. I think he just kind of ran out of fight on that final 11-lap restart to the line. He was bumped out by Pato O'Ward, and I think Newgarden had just had enough at that point, just wanted to go home, had to settle for 10th in the end. I feel bad for Josef. Like I said, another weekend, he wins both of these pretty comfortably, as a matter of fact, I would argue. He was the class of the field this weekend. No doubt about it in my mind. That was the Newgarden we've been waiting to see for a good year. That was an incredible drive all weekend, and he's got little to show for it, unfortunately. His best result of the year in race 1, at least in second. But,
the elephant in the room.
14th in points.
Penske remain winless on the year up to this point.
There are 5 more races left to avoid the thing that has not happened since 1999.
With Penske chassis, Mercedes-Benz engines, and Goodyear tires. All of which, well, not so much in Mercedes' case, but on the decline.
Yeah, now there is no excuse like that. It's all the same tires. It's all the same chassis. And you invest the company and make Chevrolet build those engines.
Yeah, Chevy racked up a win on the year, and it wasn't Penske.
Yeah, as the script says, even when Penske cooks, they're still cooked. Newgarden got hosed on strategy. Power had another engine failure.
Will Power is... I'd follow him to hell. I just wish he'd stop going there. How shit can it go for Will this year?
I don't understand at this point. That man is struggling
they
like all hell.
Just bolted in a new engine, man.
And it gave way. Just ridiculous. And then McLaughlin gets taken out on lap 1 in the outside as a spin and a wall hit from Devlin DeFrancesco. McLaughlin must hate that man. Second time this season he's been hosed.
Hang on. Why was Scott McLaughlin down with Devlin DeFrancesco? You wouldn't expect that on a short oval.
Because he crashed in qualifying, and that means he starts at the back at both races. Because remember, lap run sets the grid for the first, lap 2 for the second race. That's what happened. 0. And by the way, I do not think that I don't think that Ryan Eric King is undefeated in the regard of who has strong feelings about Devlin DeFrancesco.
I would say King has like a pack watching like Infinity Gauntlet. Devlin, Santino, Mike Hawthorne.
There's probably a poster on his wall from Brendan from Team I5G from the first time they had beef at the Thermal Club, where he said, and I quote, "You stupid dumb cunt," which is still the funniest thing that's ever been said in a round of IndyCar ever, in my opinion. It's peak Australian. You don't break that one out unless you're either an Australian or
extremely
British.
Oceanic.
That's not normally an American swear. That's normally either an English or an Australian swear, and he broke it out especially for Devlin. Yeah.
Devlin DiFrancesco, why are you even here? Oh, yeah, I completely forgot to mention as well in regards to Devlin. It's 2025. RLL are still the worst thing you've ever seen in your life around a short oval. Graham Rahal was a rolling chicane down to the end of race 2. Stinking.
19th in race 2. And you know what's funny? We mentioned that Devlin is 35 below the line in the leaders circle playoff with 5 to go. If you're curious, because the Primas obviously, the Primas would have been below the line anyway if they were actually eligible for the leaders circle. They're not, because they don't have charters. So only 3 cars are going to be below the line. The 51 of Dale Coyne will not be saved, despite Jacob Abel's 11th place in race 2. Fair play to him. He's deserved.
Pace alone, brother. LGBTQIA plus ally on pace alone in 11th. Let's go.
You'll love to see it. But
Devlin's not cracking the leader circle, and even though Nolan Siegel missed race 2 after taking a bump on the head in race 1 from what would have been by far his best result of the season, that 6 car, I don't think that's dropping below the line. I think the 3 that are below the cutoff, the 77, the 30, and the 51, those are the ones going down.
I think so. I mean, the guy at risk is the 77 of Stingray Rob's Jinkos Hollinger racing car. He is 30 points below the line. Louis Foster is the cutoff man at 150 points. Stingray Rob's at 120, Devlin's at 115, and Jacob Abel's at 88. So it's a pretty straightforward race this year. Foster, I think, has probably done enough to make it, barring major shenanigans between now and the end of the season.
Could really use a top 10 to go with that pole.
He's had. The amazing thing is, the man's finished between 11th and 14th 6 times this year. He's due one. His speed in qualifying is exceptional. There's no doubt about that, but he just needs a good result more than anything else. Even Stingray's had a fucking top 10 this year, somehow. But, season's a weird one like that. Honestly, that's about it, really, for IndyCar in Iowa. There was a pretty heated weekend. We go again next week after Toronto. It's a bumpy mother trucker, and there's bound to be some drama as a direct result. It's basically IndyCar Sebring at this point. So it's bound to throw up a crazy one, and we will talk about that next week alongside MotoGP's Czechia Grand Prix at Brno. But until then, I've been Dre Harrison. They've been Cam Buckley and RJ O'Connell. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Sayonara.
Later, y'all. I hope this was not the final corn.
I just hope that he can one-up the performance in 23 and win with a busted front wing.